It's a sight and sound experience like none other. Kaleidescopika, the art of unfolding. Hello and welcome to Backstage at the Doudna. I'm Dwight Vaught, your host. This week we get the behind-the-scenes story of how the Lehrer Dance Company and the musical ensemble Cordis came together to form this unique show. In January of 2013, the Doudna Fine Arts Center hosted the national preview tour for Kaleidescopika, meaning it was the first time the show had been performed outside of their New York home. The show is a combination of live music by the Cordis Ensemble with contemporary dance and aerialists by the Lehrer Dance Company. It's a visually stunning show that utilized every light in our theater. We had the opportunity to talk with the show's co-creators John Lehrer and Richard Grimes.
I want to leave the audience with a sensory experience like they've never felt before, in every sense.
When you come in, no matter what's happening, whether it's your birthday or you're dealing with some darker things, whatever it is that brought you to the theater, you're in it. By the time you leave, everyone is on the same page. Everyone has the same feeling and the same energy. That's what we want to bring.
Those are the words of John Lehrer and Richard Grimes, the creative forces behind Kaleidescopika. The show is a combination of live music by the Cordis Ensemble and contemporary dance and aerialists from the Lehrer Dance Company. How these two groups came together to form this show was really by accident.
It's very interesting how this came about. I'll start there and then I'll give you my input on the name and stuff. We were performing at a showcase in Pennsylvania, one of those presenter showcases where you go and get bookings. And we did our little thing, and then they have cocktail parties afterwards where you schmooze and stuff. And Richard came up to me at this cocktail party, and he told me about this thing that he had this idea for, Kaleidescopika. He wanted Cordis to be more than Cordis. He wanted to create a bigger show, but he needed a dance company. He needed a dance company. He couldn't do it. So he said, he came and saw us at the showcase and said, "You guys are it. You're exactly what we're looking for." The funny thing is this. He didn't come to see us. He came to see the company that was on before us. And I won't say who they were, but he was sent there by various people to look at this other company for Kaleidescopika. And once he saw us, he said, no, it's got to be Lehrer Dance.
So when I saw John's showcase, I turned to the agent that I was with, not Meredith, but our other agent, and I said, this is the one. And I went to John the next day and I proposed the project and I shared some of the music with him, and he got back to me later that night and said, game on.
The music of Cordis, I think the music of Cordis and the style of Lehrer Dance were meant to be together. He gave me a CD at that cocktail party. I went back to the hotel room and listened to it, and right away I knew. His music was perfect for our aesthetic and vice versa. So it's very interesting that how we came together. I then dove into it artistically with Richard to create what it actually will be. And what that is for us is this whole thing of Kaleidescopika, for me, definitely starts with the visual of a kaleidoscope. The idea of that different shapes are unfolding and folding before your eyes, and that we're adding the artistic integrity to that. And by combining dance, music, aerial arts, and tremendous lighting, we're bringing four things together to become something greater than any of them could be by themselves. And that, to me, is the art of unfolding. So this one thing unfolds like it cannot by itself.
The four-piece Cordis Ensemble is based in Boston. They're known for their contemporary chamber music and an unusual instrument choice like the cymbalum, which is the national instrument of Hungary.
Cymbalum is a zither-type instrument. In the U.S. we have Appalachian dulcimer, which is a smaller type of zither. It's just stretched horizontal string.
Small hammer hitting a string of something.
Yeah, hammer with cotton or wood hitting the string. Sometimes in the Middle East, the zithers they play there are called quanums. They pick them with plectrons or plastic picks. But either way, it's all kind of from the same mother lode. I play an electric cymbalum. It's not, and that is the only one in the world. We had that designed. I had it designed for the group, and it kind of fits in with the texture of what we sound like. So I play an electric cymbalum. You go down the line to Andrew Beal, who is our percussionist, and that's one of the largest percussion setups in North America. It's enormous. You go down the line one step further, and you have Jeremy Harmon, who plays electric and acoustic cello. And so that kind of grounds the group. Suddenly it's not some crazy instrument. You know what that... He plays electric, which is kind of crazy, but he plays acoustic too. So it brings it back to something familiar. And then at the end of the line is Brian O'Neill. And he plays piano, he plays keyboard. Once again, it's a standard instrument that you recognize. But so we have a little bit new and a little bit familiar.
So Cordis kind of has its double side. So we have our acoustic side and we have our electric side. So it is a dual setup of traditional 88 key piano and then keyboard to do synthesizer and that type of thing. So. The music is very percussive in general. So I think probably because Richard has a percussion background and because of the staccato nature of the instruments we play, we tend to explore rhythm quite a bit. So the parts are very rhythmic. But that said, there's a song element, which Richard's big in his music, and making sure that there's strong melodic content in the music and that kind of thing. And that tends to shift around. The cello takes a lot of that kind of stuff. I also fulfill the bass role a lot of the time. We don't have like a formal bass instrument. So usually I'm doing that on the keyboard or something like that. So I own a lot of the low end in the group as well.
The Lehrer Dance Company, based in Buffalo, New York, consists of 8 dancers, 4 men and 4 women. Their style has been described as organically athletic.
Both the men and the women are very strong and can do amazing things. But what we do with this athleticism is we make it very organic. So we always say it's the approach of modern dance combined with the athleticism and virtuosity of jazz and ballet. And we combine those things together to create a hybrid form that really has become our signature, and we call it organic athleticism.
You know, I have classical ballet training, whereas Teddy breakdances and Kurt tap dances. So every day, I think, with him and with each other, we are feeding off this immense amount of passion for dance, whatever style we really chose to be in. So I think that's what really sets us apart, is how different we are from each and every one of us from each other and from any other company, really.
Not having the classical ballet background, do you find that ever to be a hindrance when you're working with dancers who have had that background? Or do you think the modern, you just come at it from the approach that you have and then you just fill in the gaps?
Right, yeah, I come at it from the approach I have. I have a very specific style. And what it is I have found a group of dancers that really trust me and trust the style and believe in it. So there's no hindrances. What sometimes happens is we have to sometimes break down a few walls just to get them to start expressing themselves the Lehrer dance way. But once that happens, sky's the limit. So I've never felt hindered because of it. I just always knew that ballet would not be where I went.
I started in Buffalo at the age of, I want to say 4, dancing for the American Academy of Ballet in Williamsville. It was all classical ballet training, and I found as I matured as a dancer and as a teacher of dance and a lover of dance that it just wasn't for me, classical ballet. I needed to take a different route. So when I got to college, I got more into the modern jazz realm and fell in love. And then right when I graduated, actually, I found John.
The music of Cordis and the aesthetic of Lehrer work very well together. However, dancing to live music is a challenge that both groups certainly embrace.
Sometimes dance companies will use pre-recorded music. It's easy to block that way. It's easy to pattern your performances because you know it's going to be the same tempo. You know exactly where how the music is going to be structured. Is it better, just indifferent as far as working with live musicians? Is there a particular challenge? What are the good points and bad points about having strong musicians like Cordis, who can certainly stand on their own, Lehrer Dance, which can certainly stand on its own, bringing them together, giving them equality but separation all at the same time? I would imagine that could be both challenging and fun.
Right. Overall, it's the greatest thing in the world. And the product is the greatest thing in the world. Live music and dance, you can't beat it. The challenges come in creating it. So we don't get to rehearse with the band. I mean, the band is based in New York City and Boston, and we're in Buffalo. So we are rehearsing to recorded music of theirs, some mostly studio recordings, some live recordings. So what happens, and where the challenges are, when we get to stage together and the days before the show, just like anything live, they may take liberties on certain things that aren't in that studio recording. So wait a minute, what just happened here? I thought this was So that's the challenge. So we know, and now because we've been kind of working on this for about a year in cultivating it, the dancers and I know that, okay, we're rehearsing to this, but we know that some things are going to sound different. And there might be extra phrases that weren't on that recording. We're ready to do, and when we get on stage together, we have hashed that out, and we know. So that's really the challenge. But above all, performing to live music is such an amazing thing, and to be able to do a whole show that's based on live music with them on stage, they're not in the pit, they are right there behind them. It's just fantastic.
When we bring the dancers in, we adjust to them because it's a lot harder for them to, if you're doing a toss or something like that, you can't, could you just slow down the toss when you throw that person? Like, no. So we have to be cognizant of that, and I think my percussion background helps with that, and having accompanied people, we're all pretty tuned into that kind of stuff. So it's great, and I love having a group where 75% of us have drummers. So we're really clued into stuff with time, and making sure stuff locks in, and adjusting on the fly and that type of thing.
So do you think about your music, Cordis music, differently now that you've done this collaboration with human motion and movement? Because now sometimes you could be writing something and say, I'm seeing people move here. I'm seeing this particular kind of choreography, which might now dictate in this, so you have this back and forth in how you're approaching your own music.
I do, not as much as I probably will as everything grows and evolves, but I do, when I write something, sometimes I think, this is like, there's a piece that we're working on called Hearing Dawn that we don't do with Kaleidescopika, because I know it just doesn't have that kind of fluidity. And there are other new pieces that I've written that I've shared with John, excited to bring into the show as we evolve, that are more fluid. So I don't let it dictate how I write, but after I finish what I'm writing, I think about the purpose of the piece. I guess ultimately there could be no purpose. You could just write a piece that doesn't fit with either group, but just artistically, I never think about any constraints or any fitting it into anything. I just think, I kind of let the muse take me where it takes me, and then when the dust settles, I look at it and think, where can this go in the layout? Can this go with the band? Can this go with the show? Usually it goes with everything, because the way I write organically fits with what John does.
Well, you mentioned the lighting earlier, and I'm looking forward to that part of it, because from the technical side, when we took a look at all of the lighting plot,
Yeah.
how everything was going to look, I mean, it really challenged the resources of our space. We're happy we're able to give that, but I mean, it's a huge lighting show, and that's such a, we were joking with somebody earlier, well, you know, dancers and musicians come a dime a dozen, but not every day do you get to see a great light show.
Right, absolutely.
Which is an added,
Yeah.
I say that facetiously.
Of course.
But really, that is such an important element. It's not just let's throw some lights so everybody can see here, but you know, that is really an integral piece to telling the story of Unfolding.
When I brought Jeremy Granger on, he's the lighting designer, technical director, I said to him, the lighting is another character. This isn't, you're not just trying to light us and make us look good. He's my lighting designer and technical director as well for Lehrer Dance. And so I said, I really want you to go crazy with this. Here's your chance to at least ask for everything you've always wanted, from movers to gobos to all these things. Strobe if you want it. This is the chance. This is the kind of show where now I want to see what you have in a big presentation. So it was great because the lighting, even when we were just teching this morning, some of that lighting I was seeing for the first time. I was like, this is so awesome. This is amazing. And I'm a huge rock fan, like classic rock, like those big old shows like Floyd and Zeppelin and stuff. And, you know, I'm getting the feeling like, wow, I wonder if this is what it was like when Pink Floyd first came on, like just seeing this for the first time. You know, because I wasn't around to see that stuff. You know, so it's very exciting for me and for all of us to have that component be such an integral part.
The performance of Kaleidescopika, The Art of Unfolding, in January of 2013 at the Doudna Fine Arts Center was the national preview tour, meaning this was the first time the show had been performed outside of their New York home.
There's nothing can replace that raw energy of doing something for the first time. And when you have a group of professionals that are so skilled at their individual craft, that no matter what, that energy is going to shine through in this show. And it's very exciting for us, too, to actually be on the road with this show and seeing where it will go.
You get to see the actual, the real deal. And it's not going to be lesser in other venues. It's just going to be modified to fit on smaller stages. You don't have a small stage.
And that's part of the artistic process, and that's why we wanted to take on something like this, which was a premiere, because we still get that youthful energy, not a show that has matured and it's just, you know, it's just one more thing along
That's the cool thing. I always joke with the guys in the band that, you know, with Cordis, and you should book Cordis too, but we don't get nervous. When we take the stage, we're not nervous. You know, we know it's been done and we know how it goes, and we love it, but we don't get nervous. I get nervous with Kaleidescopika, you know, and that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
We're all kind of nervous because we know what's supposed to happen, but it hasn't happened enough that we know that it's going to happen exactly the right way. And when you're on the stage, there's just your mind is moving faster. You're more engaged in all of your surroundings, where when it's automatic, it's automatic. You know, so that's kind of the nice youthful newness that we get to bring when we get done with the show.
So when you went to John Lehrer and proposed this, was the title Kaleidescopika, The Art of Unfolding, which is the subtitle, was that in your head?
That is
what were
Meredith.
the themes and the continuity that you had that you proposed to him?
I proposed that we get together and we do a project, and that was it. Meredith, really, Kaleidescopika is Meredith's name. She kind of gave birth to that. The Art of Unfolding was also her, and she is part of the team, more so than a lot of agents are. We run things by her. We're developing the show with her direction because she has a vision too. This was really her child, and we're kind of bringing it to life. It was her name. So John and I got together, we did our thing, and she said, that's great, this works. Let's tweak that, and let's bring in Ariel. So she kind of helps to mold it and shape it. That was really her contribution.
Is the music Cordis music that's adapted to the stage? Is it new music for this project or a combination of both?
It really is, I would say most of it is Cordis music. This is what Cordis does, whether it's Cordis or Kaleidescopika. It's what we do. There are some situations with this show musically where we have to adapt things to work with the dancers. There's some pieces that we go a little bit shorter, some pieces where we add sections. And two things that are very different with Cordis in Kaleidescopika versus Cordis as Cordis. We're on risers here, and there's a little bit more of a, that's different. Normally it's a little bit more chamber-esque when it's just Cordis. The other thing is we normally talk in between pieces because as you've seen the crazy setup, you can't get away from not saying something about what you're doing.
Of course.
But with Kaleidescopika, we don't. We don't talk between pieces. That was one of the aesthetics that John wanted to bring in, was that it's music and dance the whole show, and there's not talking before, which is why we always invite people after the show to come up, and I know that after this there's a Q&A, and I think that'll be great because during the show we have to seg from one tune into and we're not used to doing that. It's something different for us to do. We do end a tune, and we talk to the audience, and we kind of joke around and whatever, and that's a different vibe when it's a little more intimate. With this, it's really, it's a show, it's a production, and so we don't talk like we normally do.
I think the intensity that we feel when we're dancing and this passion that we have for this movement that we were given, as well as this incredible sound that we're surrounded by, especially because we're right there on stage with these band members, is so incredible for us to experience as dancers that we really just want the audience to feel that same amount of passion and excitement that we bring to the stage, or we believe that we bring to the stage.
For us in Lehrer Dance, we strive really to bridge the gap between artistry and accessibility and really bring them together to create something more than either of them. And that's what we believe in Lehrer Dance, but that's also what the show does, more than we could ever do by ourselves.
But we want them to have the same kind of unfolding experience, if you will. You know, the same eye-opening, I saw and I heard things I've never seen before. I saw and I heard things that I have seen and heard before, but I heard it in a different way tonight. That's kind of what we want people to leave with. And that was the general theme that we decided to go with for the show we're going to do tonight and for the presenting of the project.